Tricks and treats and Halloween haunt are a time at Kings Island when we talk about, well, tricks and treats. But this episode, it's all about the treats. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about. So Ryan,
yeah.
tricks and treats. It's kind of the ultimate kids' Halloween party. But one of my favorite parts about it is the treats.
Yep. Now to clarify, we're talking about tricks and treats in terms of the daytime event. Most of these food items will be available at night as well, is my understanding. But we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that's at the sweet spot. And we talked about this before, but the cool part about pastries and this sort of stuff is not only do they taste good, but they look really cool too in a lot of cases. But we've selected a couple of favorites that we really wanted to talk about that are special this year. Some of them are returning favorites, but let's start off the bat. So this is the chai tres leches with salted caramel. So this is kind of a thicker thing. It's got the salted caramel taste, the cream at the top. You kind of eat it with a spoon. Comes with a little plastic cup. Delicious, right?
It is. I've had this, and it's very good.
Yeah. So I really want to try this one. They had it the other night at the sweet spot, but I said I would come back later because I had just eaten lunch, so I was so full. Or sorry, dinner. I was so full that I told myself I'd come back and get dessert later, and I never did. So that's something for next weekend. But this is making me hungry, Don. This is the spiderweb pop, which is chocolate cheesecake, along with the trick or treat brownie. The brownie top with chocolate buttercream and Halloween candies. And I tell you what, Don, if you had to choose between the two, which one are you choosing?
I'm going to go with the chocolate cheesecake.
Yeah, it's tempting. The brownie looks so good too. I wish these weren't in the same photo.
Because they're both tempting. They're both delicious. They're both something that if you got it one visit and you go back again, you're going to try it again. So yeah, I mean, for me, both of them. But if I had to choose, if I was forced to choose, it's going to be the chocolate cheesecake.
Yeah, what's funny though is I think that taste-wise, maybe the brownie might be better. It's like a rock and a hard place. But the how did they describe it on the website? The chocolate cakesicle looks really cool. This is what I was talking about. It's got the little chocolate spider on it and a spider web and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'm talking about as far as at least one aspect of how these pastries are a work of art. They have to look good. It's something you design in addition to something that's both edible and good. Well, it's good tasting.
And as we're going through these, if these treats taste half as good as they look, the guests are all in for a real treat.
Where did that come from? By the way, so if you follow Don on Twitter or X, just wait till Thanksgiving and you might hear a familiar phrase. I'm just saying.
Right.
All right. I thought you'd have feedback for that. Check this out, though. This is the Witch's Brew Cauldron chocolate cake with blackberry chip mousse. How about that?
It looks good. The blackberry thing, I'm a little picky there, so that would be a little bit of a deterrent for me, but it does look really good.
It does. And one thing that, this is not really a trade secret, though, is, salty brings out sweet since they're contradictory. So the broom is, a rod pretzel. So if you dip that in there and you eat it off of the rod pretzel, it's going to make it seem so much sweeter than it is. But this looks amazing. It's got some gummy in there as well. You can't go wrong with gummy.
No.
I do like how the park has a bunch of random gummy things. Like I think they sell them at like Jungle Gyms too, but it's like they have gummy macaroni and cheese and like a gummy pizza making kit and stuff. I'm all for it because the more stuff you can make out of gummy, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
The more the merrier.
Yeah. Now here's one. This is the slasher cupcake. Red velvet cupcake filled with raspberry blood and cream cheese buttercream. Um, so for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube, this has shards of glass in it. Now it's sugar glass. And nobody knows sugar glass better than Don from his history as an actor for Halloween Haunt. Do you want to tell that story about how you
Yes, yes,
continuously came in close contact with sugar glass?
yeah. I was part of the act, I guess you could say. The opening of Halloween Haunt. It was in the restaurant back in Rivertown. At that time, I think it was still under the. It was before the Red Hall of Fame Grill, so I think it was still under the Wings umbrella or something like that.
Rivertown
Uh,
Junction. That was
yeah,
the
Rivertown,
interface.
yeah, Junction. Yeah, it was the buffet place. But what they would do is have everybody just kind of in there. They're all just, parks open. They're eating, getting ready to eat their meals and stuff. And I'm just in there like as an innocent, person, just kind of watching what's, going on, mingling with the guest and that. And then all the monsters just kind of, you see them all outside the window, like peering in, and then they break in and just kind of, knock down the door. They come in, they're just, making a big scene. And then the monsters, they grab me. And one of them comes from behind. He bashes this bottle, it was a wine bottle or whiskey bottle or something, like over my head. It shatters, goes to pieces. I fall to the ground, and then they, pick me up, carry me off, and then Halloween Haunt. It's now open. It's underway, kind of a thing. So yeah, I did that every night. I think it was like 12 or 13 nights, and would get little cuts on my head sometimes from it. Sometimes that little pieces of the sugar glass would, go down your shirt and stuff. But it was kind of fun, to be part of that act. And it was kind of an interesting way to start the night, because nobody's expecting all these creatures to come, pouring into the restaurant and just going crazy.
I remember you guys either did the performance or you maybe test dummied it for the media when I was there for media day representing KI Central. And it was like, they had the buffet food, everyone's eating. I think at this point everyone's sitting down, and then next thing you know, just every window is occupied with a haunt monster that's popped up out of nowhere. You're like, where'd those guys come from? And finally they broke in. And I think that night this probably was part of your like PR responsibilities, but you were dressed as a monster. You had makeup on and stuff like
That
that.
night, yes,
That,
I
that
was.
night.
I was.
Yeah.
But then the other nights, no. But it was because of that opening night with the media. It was something that they decided to do every night. And they were like, you need to be available and be back there at this time so we can grab you and bash you over the head with this. I was like, okay, I guess.
My
There was
I,
one night though. There was. I asked them if they could do it because I wanted to make sure that someone else who thought it was so funny that they were part of it too. So they got me and her and carried us both out. So I thought, you think it's funny. We'll see how you think that feels at the end of the night. But I would always, there was some cuts and things on my head, from that. So took a lot of hits. As far as I know, no concussions. But
did you
it
go
was
through
just
concussion protocol before they put you back on the field?
now I'd have to go through the concussion protocol. But no, it was. I mean, sometimes the guy that would smash me over the head, I mean, he had a lot of fun doing that, and each week he seemed to like try to hit harder and harder with it.
Yeah. Did it hurt, or was it like? I mean, I know that the sugar glass
You
is
felt it.
designed.
I mean,
Right.
shattered upon impact. I mean, you felt it though.
Yeah.
Then I would just drop to the ground, and then they would just kind of carry me off, and they would take me outside the door and kind of take me to the back, and where you have you can see the splashdown and stuff for Diamondback, and just kind of like lay me on the ground. They'd be off. They just let me down, and that was it.
Yeah.
Nobody said, "Are you okay? How do you feel? Hey, you're bleeding." They just would take off.
I mean, I remember. I wish I had this photo. Maybe I'll have to edit that. But uh, like it brings up the time when we were at a Reds game and you hit your head on a chair like behind us when a foul ball went behind us and
Diving
you were
for a
like
foul
waiting.
ball, yes, that
Yeah.
was
Yeah, let's call it
not
diving for a foul ball. Let's call it that. Not
well, yeah,
not something you were
I jumped over the seat, and as I reached under the seat, my head hit the little metal bracket and stuff and cut it open, but yeah,
Yeah, you're on the DL
I
for like 15 minutes for
got
that
the
one.
ball,
That's true.
yeah.
You got the out and saved the game. All right, next up.
Nick Markakis was the guy that took the foul ball.
The next one is the monster cookie. So that's just a cookie, chocolate chip cookie with M&Ms in it. So hard to
Sweet
screw
Spot
up.
does great chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, but my personal favorite, the one behind, the witch's brew. And I kept on hounding the people in the sweet spot to make sure that this came back. The witch's brew is a chocolate chip cookie filled with green marshmallow goo. So the green marshmallow goo on the inside is something that I guess they. So the cookie is a 10 out of 10 no matter what. And we got the cookie every single night of haunt last year. And I remember one time we got it because me and Aaron like split like so we don't eat so much sugar. We split this stuff, We split it and there's this green stuff in it. And we're like, what is this? We're like, all right, whatever. And we ate it and we're like, this is the best thing ever. But I guess last year they had they didn't have a good consistency as far as making sure that every witch's brew cookie had that goo in it. So it was like every once in a while you get it. But I was looking at it this past weekend and you could see it on all of them. So they did something to play with the format. If you want a dessert, that's the one to get. If you want something that's light and a little bit smaller, if you're already full or whatever, the witch's brew, I look forward to that every year. Haunt's coming up, time for the witch's brew. So I'm so excited that it's back. It's so good. So good.
I can attest to what Ryan is saying. It is amazing.
It is. Now, this next item here is something that I tried twice. I don't know how they make it. I don't know what goes into it, but I want to show it. This is the brain bleed. So it looks like a brain. It's obviously got some sort of like pink icing on it. Maybe a little cake under it. I don't remember. But if you see, for those of you watching on YouTube, you see the little vial in it. That's some sort of like cherry flavoring or whatever. And I remember I started eating it before I realized that was like, I thought it was just like a plastic thing. And I ate it and I was like, it's fine. But then I realized that that's something you're supposed to like squirt on the brain. And it ended up being really, really good with that. So this is one of those where it tastes good. I mean, it's a solid 7 out of 10. It more like looks cooler than it tastes. But I wanted to show this off because it looks really cool. Actually, this isn't the best representation of it anyway. This is just one I took a picture of the other night. But a lot of times they look a lot more like brains than this does. Like when you see it, you'll know exactly what it is.
And it's something that's worth trying. You might not want to get it every single night that you go to Halloween Haunt or during the day for tricks and treats, but it's something that you want to try at least once because it's unique tasting.
It is. If you want to try something different, then this is definitely a good one. I mean, you can't just get the witch's brew every single night like I did. You got to get other stuff too. This is a good one. I mean, it is small, so I guess in the way that the cookies worked out for us is like I said, we split them pretty often. So if we split this, it would probably work the same way. But I wanted to share this one because I think it just looks so cool because it looks like a brain and stuff. But
Yeah, very
this
cool
one,
looking item.
yeah. All right. So cool looking stuff, Don. Let's talk about Tower Topics t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts must have if you're a fan of the show. Comes in a Carolina blue, any size that you might need. Just $22, and that includes shipping. If you're interested, just send us a message on X, which is tower_topics. You can also message us if you don't have X on the YouTube video. If you're watching it, just go into the comments and say you're interested, and we'll reach out to you and get your information on that. We'll send you the QR code once the transaction goes through. It's just a matter of days before you get your shirt, and you can join the growing number of fans of the show that have one of these t-shirts.
And if you don't have a t-shirt, you're not really a good friend of ours. Totally kidding. We appreciate anybody who watches the show, let alone
No,
buys the
very
shirt.
comfortable T-shirt. I mean, of all the
Mhm.
T-shirts that I own, I think the Tower Topics shirt is the most comfortable that I have. It's lightweight, breathes easily. So especially in the summer months, it's a real comfortable shirt to have.
I'm not gonna believe you until so Don is gonna be a grandfather. What I wanna see is all the photos of you meeting your grandchild for the first time. You're wearing a Tower Topics t-shirt and you have a little infant Tower Topics t-shirt for the little baby. I wanna see that, and then I
You
will
know
believe
what?
you.
I think you'll see that photo. I really do. Something else I'm working on. I'm working on. I've been known for wearing the Hawaiian shirts.
Mhm.
That's now my everyday kind of attire type thing. And I'm working on a Tower Topics Hawaiian shirt. So can't get it looking the way I want it to look just yet with the design and that, but it'll get there, and those might be available next summer.
Yeah, I honestly, there's just so much demand for Tower Topics t-shirts out of Hawaii that the people have spoken. Yeah,
Yes.
if popularity in Germany skyrockets, we might have Tower Topics, later Houston.
Yeah. Now, for as we get into the deeper fall, we get into the Winterfest season and that Tower Topics, uh, hoodie sweatshirts is something that you might see being released very soon.
Absolutely. Don't give away all the secrets, Don. We'll be right back. Well, we have a lot more secrets coming, so some exciting stuff coming up. But we'll be right back with the listener questions. All right, first listener question. Jim S. from Delhi, Ohio. Any idea how many rolls of toilet paper Kings Island goes through in a year?
Um, Actually, yeah, I got an idea. It's probably a little over 700 cases, and I think 68,000 rolls would probably be about the number. I remember a few years ago,
Mhm.
I had asked the Park Services team about that, and I did it as a tweet and just said this year Kings Island went through this many rolls of toilet paper. And it was 60 something, 67, 68,000, top of my head, trying to look back. I'm sure if somebody scrolls deep enough in the Kings Island X account, you could find that from 7 or 8 years ago. But it's a lot, that they go through.
I want to learn more about Kings Island toilet paper, so I'm just going to give the floor to you. I'm
Well,
kidding.
you know,
It's like
like I said, it's an
usually I
odd
can add
question.
something.
We get a lot of some odd questions, and then I think that one's going to rank up there as one of the most random type questions that would be out there. But I remember when I did the tweet, a couple of the news outlets kind of used that as a little nugget in their stories. Kings on roundup for the year kind of things. They thought it was fun. But yeah, I mean, it's you look at you're open this many days, this many guests. I mean, it's 68 something thousand, 67,000, somewhere in that ballpark.
So, what were the headlines like? Kings Island wipes away the competition.
No, no, no. It was just kind of one of those, things that was just kind of like a footnote, like just little notes. Kings Island, like this year, the Beast gave X number of rides. This gave that. They served this many slices of pizza. This many burgers. That kind of like it was one of those fun fact, kind of things that was out there, and it was just one of those, one of the bulleted items that they just picked up off the tweet, and just added that into those numbers.
That would have been funny if that like what am I thinking of?
But when you're a PR person, you got to think about things like that. I mean, it's
Mm,
that you know one of the people that I learned a lot from and just had a lot of discussions with. He was a brilliant PR person. Was Andy Furman, who had a long radio career in Cincinnati. He used to be a PR person for like a racetrack, and he would just do the craziest things, anything to get somebody mentioning the racetrack. He didn't care what the story was as long as they spelled the name of the racetrack right. So that's one of the missions that you have. And, one of the people I learned under, with Ruth Voss and Bill Mefford and, those guys that were there, people that were there in the 80s was, just find, unique things that the media will talk about just to get people, mentioning Kings Island. And, when you do little things like that, media, they're interested in numbers. So if you say we gave, X million rides this year, the Beast was number one, this was number two, this was number three, down the list, and you say how many slices of pizza you served, how many burgers, how many hot dogs you went through, just all those numerical things. That's going to be a story if you find enough of those, and then you add something odd like that in there. I mean, it just kind of makes the story funnier.
I guess the next question I have is the weight of the toilet paper is probably something that What was the weight after the
I
season?
I don't know
How
what
much
the weight
mass
of
was added
I
to?
I don't know.
All right.
Those kind of things. But thanks for that question. So if you have any oddball questions you want to know, just send us on our X, just tag us and say, here's my question. So doesn't matter how odd, it might make the show.
All right. Speaking of odd questions, next listener
It also
question.
tells you that we didn't have a lot of great questions for this episode. Anyway, go ahead. Next.
Red K from Hamilton, Ohio. He said, I heard a mock spinner was planned for the Vortex replacement, but the deal fell through. What are you guys hearing?
I'm hearing nothing of that sort.
I've heard a lot of people wishing for a mock extreme spinner, but I've never heard like that's what's coming.
I think it's too early. I mean, they just had the merger. They're not, I mean, it's no. I think there's so many rumors.
He said that the deal fell through, so maybe it got canceled as a result of the merger.
I don't know. No, I mean, there would have been more things out there about that. This is the first time hearing that one as a rumor. I know a lot of people would like to see that, but no. As far as I know, no deal was in the works and it fell through for the Vortex plot.
Yeah, and I imagine for a manufacturer like Mach, it's probably more in line with B&M than anything else, where if something was going to be in that spot, they don't really have the flexibility to be like, oh yeah, next year we're going to do that. Like the new Cedar Point ride was probably intended for another park, and they're able to move it from one park to another. But I bet you dollars to donuts, it wasn't like halfway through the season they were like, you know what, Tilt Coaster. And then Become was like, okay, like it's just the lead time.
That was in the works. Yeah. That was planned for somewhere else, 2 other places, in fact, and they weren't able to get it done there. And then they had to find a home for it, and so it's going to Cedar Point. So, good for them that they get a third coaster in 3 years.
Yeah. Now tell me again why it's too soon for the Vortex plot.
I just think I think they're they got to start thinking about it, but yeah. I don't know that they're ready to whatever it might be, 25, 30, 40 million dollars. I don't know if they're ready to do that yet.
Honestly, I'm going to give you the same line that I always give for like, should we bring back Phantom Theater? It's like whatever goes in that spot, you and I both know has to be excellent, because it's going into a spot of a legendary ride that was probably more beloved than they realized when they tore it out. And, if they give some sort of run-of-the-mill, boring, thoughtless, cookie-cutter thing, they're going to get called out for it. And I'm not saying by us or by the Acers, it's going to be by the general public.
Yes.
And
Vortex was, beloved. I mean, it really was. Was it rough? Yeah. But I think the guests loved the roughness of it. I mean, it was just part of its charm. They miss it. I think every year that spot sits vacant, I think the pressure mounts on how good that replacement has to be.
I mean, as much as I hate to say this, and I've said it before, it's going to be a dive coaster akin to Iron Menace.
Yeah, I don't actually like the word replacement, though. I mean, I just use that, and you see that a lot, but I don't like the word replace. If it was coming the next year, then it's kind of a replacement, but several years down the road, I think replacement's kind of gone, and you just have to look at it as it's a new ride going in that spot.
Well, if your parents get divorced, and your dad gets remarried, that's not your replacement mom, that's your stepmom. So would this be a step coaster?
It's been a long time since there was something there now, 2019.
Yeah, I'm honestly, and I'm not really like, the things that I'm saying are mainly joking, but at the same time, it's like, but what I was saying with like the Phantom Theater thing is, if they were going to bring back Phantom Theater, if I had to choose between bring it back next year but make it cheap but cheerful, or wait until there's a high budget year and a lot of capital to spend to do it right, you better believe I want to wait. Same thing's true with the Vortex
Yeah,
thing.
you gotta do
know,
it right. And like I said, there's every year, you know, the expectation, of what this can be and how good it can be and all that. I mean, that's just gonna, become greater and greater the longer that area sits vacant. And they see other coasters going up other places, and everybody starts to say, "Hey, that would have been a good, ride for that spot." So, whatever they do, number one, it has to work and be reliable, but it has to be, you know, really good. It just can't be another coaster in the park. Kind of like when Orion went in, it's not considered to be better than Diamondback. It's not even in a lot of people's list the top 3 or 4 coasters in the park. So it can't be something like that. It's going to have to be something that everyone's talking about. Everybody wants to ride it. It's re-rideable, and it's that 1, 2, 3 on everyone's list at Kings Island.
yeah, and that's the thing with Orion, and it's such a first world problem because there are hundreds of other parks out there that would love to have like a boomerang, let alone a giga coaster. But when it comes down to it, and this isn't even from a guest standpoint, this is from an investment standpoint. If you're going to put in a $30 million ride, it better be the best, at least the best steel coaster in the park. And I feel like what they put in, they were way too conservative. It ended up kind of benign. It's a good ride, but it's nothing to write home about.
It's missing that signature element that separates it from just being another really good roller coaster. I mean, it's a really good roller coaster, but there's not that signature thing that separates it, from the rest of the pack. Like Fury has that, Millennium Force has that. So it needs something like that. And I think whatever they do in the Vortex spot, it needs to have something signature about it that separates it from the pack.
Yeah, I like I said, my head says it'll be a dive coaster. It'll be a mid tier. It'll be a an Iron Menace kind of
Iron
situation.
Menace.
Maybe it'll have like a cool theme or whatever, but it's going to be something like that because it's safe and it's conservative and it's easy to do maintenance. But my part of that says, well, if this Vekoma tilt coaster works out for Cedar Point, maybe they'll give Vekoma a chance because Vekoma is cheaper than B&M, and it's they haven't had the best reliability with Snoopy Soapbox Racers, but I mean, Big Bear Mountain and Good Gravy haven't had those problems, so it might be just unique to
No,
that ride.
no, not at all. I mean, with each passing year, I mean, it's getting closer to whatever they do there. It might be 2026, might be 2027, might be 2028, but ultimately something will go in there, and it's just our hope that whatever it is spectacular.
I This is when I want to put in the put in the clip from like the after credit roll from Wayne's World when Wayne goes, "I hope you found this performance informative and stimulating," and Garth goes, "I just hope you didn't think it sucked." I wanted to reply, "I just hope the new coaster doesn't suck," which I'm sure it won't. I mean, in all seriousness,
No,
um,
I think it'll be good. Whatever
I
it
but
is.
my fear though is that even if it's a dive coaster, it's going to be, unless they do something different with it, then is it going to be too similar to Diamondback? I mean, they've already had that problem once, and then this one's going to be within eye shot of Diamondback. They're going to be facing each other essentially. So it's people that aren't into coasters already think that Kings Island added the same coaster twice, and most think that Diamondback's better. So if you go for one that's kind of a one trick pony and has a similar feel and stuff to the Hyper and the Giga and so on, I just wonder if that's gonna move the needle at all. I mean, is it gonna be a crowd pleaser? Yes. Is it gonna sell tickets through the amortization period? I'm sure it will, but it's not gonna be a situation where, like this tilt coaster, the one that's in Hong Kong, I remember seeing footage of that like years ago where people are like, I think Rob Alvey put it out because he's been to every park. but he was like, "Would you ride this?" And it was like super wild. And it's like, oh my god, it holds the train in spot, and then it drops and stuff. Well, I mean, a lot of people have seen the dive coasters, and and I almost wonder if, since they're so symbiotic with Cedar Point at this point, if they add a dive coaster that's 130, 150 feet or whatever, if it's going to be not as good Valraven. You know what I mean? Because I wonder if enough of the community that would be interested in that will have been to Cedar Point and seen the 200 footer.
Yeah, all I know is when I saw what Canada's Wonderland is doing, and I looked at, the statistics and the length of track and everything, and I thought, you know what, that would kind of fit in that spot.
I really
Like,
think that the tilt coaster would have fit there. Like I haven't measured it out or anything, but I've got a feeling it would have. It would have fit in the
yeah, I mean the
vortex
length
spot.
of track, yeah, it would have fit in that spot. I mean, there's a lot more room to work with than you think in that vortex spot too.
Yeah. But anyway, mock extreme spinner. I would love to see that. I'd love to see one similar to Time Traveler, or the
Yes.
bevy of other ones in Europe that are fantastic. That's one that a lot of people wish for. I don't know if it's on the radar or not. But I'm with you, man. Red, I hope you get what you're looking for. But yeah, cool. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.